I have been reworking some D&D monsters off-screen, because not all of them deserve a separate video, and if I made a video for every single one of them, I would never be able to finish. In this video, I would like to show an update of one of my oldest conversions, Archons from Monster Manual. Archons in D&D are exemplars of the lawful good alignment. These celestial beings, just like other celestials, do not get as much attention in D&D as demons and devils do. And the reason, as I believe, is that the typical PCs are not supposed to fight them. They serve as allies or patrons. This is why there are only 7 or so angels in D&D and dozens upon dozens of different fiends. The 3 Archons presented in the Monster Manual are Lantern Archon, Hound Archon and Trumpet Archon. While all 3 are quite different from one another, especially the Lantern Archon, they all have some common features. Since they are outsiders, they do not need to eat or drink and are unaging. Due to being paragons of law and goodness, they possess vulnerability to anarchic and unholy weapons. Hound Archon and Trumpet Archon will also have 2 perks, Axiomatic Touch and Holy Touch. This means that all their natural weapons are considered to be axiomatic and holy for the purpose of vulnerabilities. Their racial templates will also include some appropriate disadvantages: honesty, intolerance to fiends, pacifism, cannot harm innocence, and truthfulness. They also have some other Archon-specific abilities. First of all, they have DR20 against electricity. Why? Honestly, I do not know the justification, but in fiction, divine wrath often is manifested as a lightning storm or bolt, so maybe there is a relation. They are also resistant to poison and immune to petrification. I can understand minor resistance to poison, but where does immunity to petrification come from? The only thing that comes to mind is the story of Lot's wife from the Old Testament. She got turned into a pillar of salt for disobeying divine orders. So maybe petrification is something only mere mortals are supposed to be vulnerable to, but this is quite a stretch. Anyway, I'm fine with this immunity. It will come up very rarely, but you can be sure that any statues of Archons are actual statues, not petrified Archons. Archons have an innate ability to detect evil, and it seems sensible to me. I know that alignment is a contentious topic, but I explained my position on it in another video. Aura of Menace is yet another ability that is found in all Archons. D&D had it impose penalties to various roles, but I decided to go a different route. I will represent it as a terror advantage with some modifications. Magical will be a power modifier, selective area will prevent the Archons from spooking friendlies, and presence will remove the requirement to see or hear the Archon, but limit it to a 10-yard radius area. Most importantly, you can use the O variant fright check table from GURPS powers. There are few opportunities to use this variant table, and this is one of them that will give the Archons just the right flavor. Finally, Archons can speak with any creature that has a language. Instead of using the horrendously expensive omnilingual advantage, I will build it as a cosmic power that costs only 12 points. Sure, it can hold only one language at a time, but it still accomplishes its task. D&D Archons, like most other creatures, have dark vision. Usually I represent it as infravision, but this time I decided to simply remove it. I feel that dark vision is overused, and it invalidates many darkness and stealth related abilities, so I try to remove it where it makes sense. After all, Celestia, the home plane of Archons, is constantly illuminated. Why would they need to be able to see in the dark? I still left Night Vision 5, however. D&D Archons also had a constantly active magic circle against evil and the ability to cast greater teleport at will, but that's too much in my opinion. I do not want Archons to teleport around the world all the time, and I do not want to deal with the magic circle against evil. Now the Archons themselves. Let's start with the strangest one, the Lantern Archon. Lantern Archons are simply small orbs of light. souls of departed lawful good mortals. They can barely interact with the physical world, but they possess some powerful abilities nonetheless. Among the Archons, they serve as messengers. Various D&D books for different editions give conflicting information regarding these creatures, so I had to pick and choose to build what I like the most. While some books claim the Lantern Archons are intangible, which means that they have either injury tolerance diffuse or insubstantiality, I decided to go with injury tolerance homogeneous, no head, no blood, no eyes and no neck. This means that the Archon has a physical body, a small homogeneous core that can be physically damaged. It emits light and can see all around itself, so I gave it the illumination perk and the 300 degrees vision advantage with the Panoptic 1 enhancement. In terms of metabolism, they seem to be closer to construct than to living beings. I decided to go with doesn't breathe, doesn't sleep, immunity to metabolic hazards, pressure support 3, sealed and vacuum support. I went as far as to give them the unnatural disadvantage. They can speak, but they have no mouth. GURPS doesn't have the no mouth disadvantage, but I usually treat it as minus 4 point disadvantage. Weak bite is minus 2 points after all. They cannot smell, taste or feel anything. I gave them no sense of smell and taste and numb. Obviously they have no manipulators and no legs aerial. They move via the flight advantage. Aside from flight and illumination, they have some other unique magical abilities. First, I actually gave them the warp advantage. Description says that they are often sent by other Archons as messengers, so I decided to emphasize this by actually allowing them to teleport and removing the teleportation from all other Archons. Their only attack is a light ray. This is a relatively weak tide beam burning attack with a range of 10 yards. To spice things up, I gave it nuisance effect reflective, stolen from the Sunbolt sorcery spell. You might notice that I did not give them the axiomatic touch and holy touch perks. This is because the Lantern Archons do not have any physical attacks. Finally, one of the older books said that Lantern Archons are impervious to mundane attacks and that they reform one day after their destruction. I found that interesting. Immunity to mundane weaponry is something many pre-D&D 3e monsters had, but this reformation was never brought up again in any more modern editions. I decided to give the Lantern Archon Unkillable 3 with Achilles Heel, non-mundane attacks. This means that the only way to permanently destroy a Lantern Archon is to either do it in a no-mana area, or by harming it with a magical, psionic, divine, etc. weapon. That's neat. Next up, we have the Hound Archons. They always seem to be out of place to me. A beautiful winged humanoid or a floating ball of light seem angelic to me, but a humanoid dog? Really? I do not know if they are based on some mythological creature, but if you do, please let me know. Unlike the Lantern Archons, they are closer to proper living beings. I gave them combat reflexes, discriminatory smell, tough skin, magic resistance 2, and the ability to see invisible. All this seems appropriate. Finally, they have a signature ability, an ability to shapeshift into any canine animal to blend in with a crowd and stay unnoticed. Fine, I guess. In my opinion, they are the lamest Archons, and maybe even the lamest Celestials, at least from the Monster Manual. The final Archon is a Trumpet Archon. They are beautiful winged humanoid beings with magical trumpets. Of course, I give them positive appearance and higher than average attributes, as they are supposed to be near the top of the Archon hierarchy. And wings, obviously. However, I decided to remove the aura of menace, as it felt a bit redundant. They have their trumpet ability that basically does the same thing. The trumpet, when blown, forces everyone who hears it to roll a fright check with -3, using the awe variant table. I include some gadget modifiers because the Archon needs this trumpet, not any trumpet. Finally, the Trumpet Archon has a huge array of spell-like abilities in D&D, but I mercilessly cut it down to merely 2 spells, lesser restoration and minor healing. Thus, the trumpet archon will be more focused on healing injuries and afflictions, while the hound archons do the fighting and lantern archons serve as messengers. Narrowing it down this way helps giving the trumpet archons a theme. I am content with the result. The lantern archon actually became more expensive compared to my previous conversion, but my first attempt was incredibly flawed. It made no sense whatsoever. The hound archon became slightly cheaper, but probably got changed the least out of the three, and the trumpet archon had its points value decreased drastically. So thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.